we all knew that this was there.
You know this is coming.
Oh yeah, absolutely knew it was coming. We've been talking about Beat Saber for 10 years.
Yeah.
From 2015 until now, it felt like we were kind of stuck in the same place.
Hi guys, so in this video we're gonna talk about the Apple Vision Pro with a former Apple UX designer and current college professor, David Elfring. Thank you for being on my show.
You're welcome, I'm glad to be here.
Have you heard of they are doing this kind of like a virtual reality headset before during your time?
So I worked at Apple mostly in marketing, and I left in 2019, and in started in 2015, 16, 17, Apple was already starting to explore augmented reality. So it felt early on that the company was really investing in augmented reality. And I left before I would have been told about the vision, but we all knew that this was there.
You know this is coming.
Oh yeah, absolutely knew it was coming. And then after I left, I had friends who were there who I knew were working on it. Maybe not the device itself, but they were thinking about the UI and they were thinking about the content that would eventually be on a device like this. He and his team first started working on things for the Apple Vision 3 years ago. So it's been a long time that they've really thought about this. We know this was coming back then? No, but because we could see so much of the company and the focus of what they were building into iPhones and iPads and even the Apple Watch, you could see that they were laying the groundwork. What was coming here with the Vision.
And also since our conversation at lunch last time, you said that you've been testing out so many different VR products.
That's right. I've been personally interested in this for a long time. And I remember seeing early experiments in the late 80s, early 90s. I was a child. And then kind of the early 2000s, there was an experience in Chicago. Disney was investing in theme parks that were like in a building. And they had early VR. So instead of going to like a huge Disneyland, you could go to a small building and they were using VR, like a way to bring Disney to a big city, right? And what was it called? The Disney Experience or something like that. But that was the first place that you could go to, and they had VR headsets, and they were huge. And they had to be suspended from the ceiling. But that was the first time where I could look around and see a virtual environment. I remember the thing that really started to make it more approachable in the United States, I want to say, was 2015 with the first release of the Oculus
One?
Yeah, which ultimately gets bought by Facebook and Meta and becomes the Quest. But that was the first one that I saw that started to feel like this is something we can have in our homes. And I tried that one, and I tried Sony PlayStation headsets. I had an HTC Vive that I would connect to my desktop computer. All of these things, I really was deeply interested. I really wanted them to be a part of my life. And they weren't. I wouldn't wear them for very long.
Yeah.
And most of them I wore, the first Quest, maybe the Quest 2, I wore it a bit during the pandemic, but it didn't take. After a week or two, I never put it on again.
Yeah. I really have a dizziness with 3D in there. Yeah.
That's right. I think that's a big problem that many people have.
The latency we have.
That's right.
Especially see-through is black and white, so it's like weird.
And just the process of defining a boundary on the floor.
Yeah.
I think early efforts, the way Meta seems to be going with VR, was really this thought that it would be a very active experience, that we would be moving in space, right? And so you draw this boundary so that I can walk and move. Or the HTC, we would put the sensors around the room. And it was this thought that we will be swinging swords and dancing and moving and running, which is true. There were some really cool games. My favorite game it's still my favorite game, I wanted to say it was called Ultra Hot. Do you know what I'm talking about? Where it's like you're in slow motion and you're kind of moving. That and and you're shooting the guns and things like this. And you put this helmet on. That I thought was a really cool. I still think it's a really cool experience. But it felt like from 2015 until now, it felt like we were kind of stuck in the same place. Yeah. This feels different, and I've been really impressed.
I think during those years, the user scenarios are the same. like everybody's saying that, oh, this is for entertainment, this is for, like there's so many lightsaber games coming out.
We've been talking about Beat Saber
Yeah, Beat Saber.
for 10 years.
Yeah.
And
It's an old game though.
It's an old game. And I because I was curious about these things, when I left Apple, I was going to festivals, so big film festivals here in the United States. They have all these films, but they also would have interactive, immersive festivals. So I would go and see some very early VR storytelling, and I would get very excited about that. But all of those creators were frustrated because it just seemed like all anybody wanted to talk about, the only thing people knew was Beat Saber, and it just felt like we were not making progress. It wasn't gaining traction, right? People like you and I would have those headsets, but it's not like young people were asking for them for holiday presents, right? Like people wanted a PlayStation, they didn't want a Quest. And I think maybe that's changing now. I'm not sure. It's an interesting space, but I went around and tried a lot of different headsets and met people at different studios who were creating content for this new world and really hoping that it would take off. And for years, it just didn't go anywhere.
Thank you for watching this episode of our interview. Remember, this is just a part of my in-depth series. Stay tuned for our next video if you want to dive deeper into the more exciting content. Make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification button so you won't miss any update. See you in the next episode.